And then we will open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. So there's a microphone right in the center, and any questions that anyone has, please feel free to come to the microphone and share your name, share where you're from, and then share your question. But starting with one that has come from our family joining online. Suppose that we observe a fault in another spiritual or non-spiritual person's behavior. When do we correct the person? When do we let go? And when do we show compassion and allow them to just be? So when to correct them, when to just let it go, and when to show compassion and let them just be. Let's take the first situation. When to correct them. When they are your child, who is still a child, not your adult child living their own lives and making their own decisions, but when it is your child who is still a child, when it is a student in your class, when it is someone who has directly asked you for your guidance in their life. So maybe they have made you their guru, or maybe they have simply said, "Would you guide me in my life?" Those are the only real 3 times. The only 4th time is when someone's behavior is causing direct harm to another person who cannot speak for themselves or help themselves. So you're walking down the street and you see somebody hitting a child, another person, a dog, a cat, bringing harm to another being that cannot protect itself. By all means, intervene. Tell the person that what they're doing is wrong and get them to stop it. But other than those 4 times, we have to shift to either just letting it go or letting it be, which are kind of the same things. And of course, compassion should always be there. And here's why. Number 1, we are not the karmic police. We're not the moral police. We're not the ethical police. What is right for another person is not up to us to decide. And one of the reasons for that is that we can never get a big enough picture of what it is that might be leading someone to act in a certain way, to speak in a certain way, to be a certain way. And without all the information, we cannot be judge and jury and, declare them guilty when we don't even know the situation. But the other reason is actually purely practical. Because they're not going to listen to us anyway, and all it's going to create is conflict. Unless someone is, as I said, your child, your student, or your disciple / mentee / someone who has consciously asked for your guidance, they're not going to bother with what you say anyway. Somebody tells us that what we're doing is wrong. Think about it in your own life. Someone who is not your parent, your teacher, your boss, your guru, tells you that what you're doing is wrong. how frequently do we say, oh, thank you so much for correcting my life? And how frequently do we say, mind your own damn business, right? Much more of the latter. It's very, very rare that anyone would say, oh, thank you so much for telling me how mean and obnoxious I'm being. Thank you so much for pointing out how rude I'm being or selfish I'm being. Nobody wants to hear it. Mind your own business is what we get told. So all we've done is created conflict. And this is why the only option left to us is you let it go. But you let it go with a prayer to the universe that should your assessment be right, that what they're doing is not right, that their own hearts should realize that their own minds should realize that they should come out of the ignorance, fear, arrogance, contraction, ego, whatever it is that's leading them to be like that they should emerge from it. So with compassion and with a prayer. The dilemma when we go deeper and deeper on our spiritual paths is that a lot of us tend to become sort of the unanointed, unasked for dictators of other people's lives. And it never goes well. And this is why we pray for them. We pray for them. Again, unless their actions are harming somebody. If there is harm, rather than just rudeness or inappropriateness, and you can prevent someone from being harmed, then by all means we should do it. But otherwise, they say people living in glass houses should not throw stones. Otherwise, it's a lot more effective to look at what am I doing? Okay, the other one is doing that, but what am I doing? Because at least my wrong actions, hopefully I'm interested in changing. Hopefully I'm interested in looking at where am I being unskillful, selfish, arrogant, ignorant, narrow-minded. So shift the focus from where you cannot bring about change to actually where you can and are meant to bring about change. And by the way, in psychology, it's kind of an accepted truth that the things that trigger us most in other people are things within ourselves that we need to work on the most. So if to you someone is selfish, ask yourself, what is it about their selfishness that is triggering something in me? Where in me is there selfishness? Or where in me, on a more subtle level, is there a desire to be selfish, but I have been so programmed to be a martyr that I'm being like a reluctant martyr and I'd rather be selfish. So I look at the selfish person and I say, how dare they be so selfish? When actually subconsciously what I'm thinking is, oh, that's not fair. I wish I could be like that. But I can't let myself think that because it violates every principle I have. And so instead, I say that person is an awful, selfish person. So there's always so much to learn about the things in other people that bother us. So use that as a personal learning experience. Yeah, beautiful. Other questions? Yes, here. And then you can come to.
Namaskar, good evening. Some sect of people or some kind of knowledge believes that when a person is born, his future or his life depends upon the planetary movement at that time and maybe in future also. That is what we call Bhagya. My question is, if Bhagya is so strong, if that planetary movement is so strong and remedies are also available, then where does karma plays the role? Or should we focus on karma, or should we focus on remedies which can balance out the planetary wrongs which were there at the time of birth? Thank you.
Great. So these things are actually much more interconnected than they sound. The planetary alignment, when I am born, that according to Vedic astrology will determine, impact, not dictate, but impact, influence a lot about my life. That's not random. So it's not like you have my fate as told by the stars over here, and then you have my karma and, action determined destiny over here. They're not separate. My actions from my past births have created my karmic package in this birth. When I was born, where I was born, under which constellations I was born, with which astrological patterns and influences I was born, that's determined by my past actions. That is the scientific way of giving me exactly the situation I am meant to have in this life. So now I'm here. I have my astrology, I have the planets, I have the moon, I have the stars, I have the sun, I have everything. Do I focus on trying to fix that? Or do I focus on action, karma? Well, they're the same thing. The actions that we are given by Jyotishas, by the experts of my astrology. It may be a certain type of puja, it may be a certain type of mantra, it may be a certain type of seva. Those are the actions that are healing those influences that are the lessons that I've come onto planet Earth to have. So it's all together. And simultaneously, the actions that I take, spiritual actions, my meditation, my prayer, my japa, my seva, all of that is mitigating the impact of that magnetic cosmic energy. Because ultimately, the power of grace is the greatest power in the universe. And we're given this. I mean, if you look at scriptural stories, take Hanumanji, for example, just because I'm a Hanumanji bhakt, so it comes to me immediately. Well, one of the key aspects of our astrology is, of course, the placement of the sun, right? Our sun sign, this is the astrological sign that most of us go by. And it's seen to be this element, the powerful in and of itself. We have no control over it. We can just do certain pujas, do certain mantras, do things to mitigate the impact. Well, Hanumanji decided, thou shalt not set today yet. My work is not done. Okay. So he grabs it. Now, aside from just the beauty of the story on so many other levels, I believe that these stories are given to us to remind us of the power of grace. Power of grace. You've got an issue with your sun sign? Well, no problem. Hanumanji can take care of it. Right? I mean, we've just been given evidence of that. Some issue with the placement of the sun? Okay. Call upon Hanumanji. He'll fix that for you. Right? So our spiritual practices enable us to access a power that is much stronger than the placement of the moon. I mean, take another example. Across traditions. We have it in the Hindu tradition, we have it in the Jewish tradition, in the biblical tradition. Bhagwan Krishna is born. He needs to get from the jail safely. The Yamuna is raging. But what happens? Now, what makes our rivers rage? What makes high tides in the ocean? The moon, the stars, the planet, the same things that impact us. But when Krishna is there, the Yamuna suddenly goes down. We have the story of Moses leading the Jews out of Egypt into the Red Sea. Well, the Red Sea is raging, but they're being chased by the Pharaoh and the Egyptians who are going to kill them and bring them back to slavery. The Red Sea parts. Now, these are stories from our religious traditions, but what they teach us on a subtle level is the power of grace over the natural elements. Oceans, rivers, seas, the sun, over the natural elements. You know, if we sat here for another 10 minutes, I could come up with another 4 or 5 examples, but the scriptural stories are full of them. Grace and divine connection being so much stronger than the material world. Whether it's manifesting food, whether it's Sudama's new castle, whatever it is, right? All of these miracles are there, I deeply believe, to show us that the power of grace, the power of divine connection, is stronger than any other power on earth. So yes, we have sun signs, we have moon signs, we have astrological horoscopes. And they're certainly worth paying attention to, you know, in the same way that I have an Oura ring and it tells me about, you know, my sleep and my movement. Why not? Information is great. It helps us lead healthy lives in our physical bodies, in our minds, in our hearts, in our energies. I'm all in favor of information that gives us the best opportunity, spiritually, emotionally, physically, physiologically, to live the most aligned, balanced, uplifted life possible. But we must never forget that all of these energies are operating only at the most basic realm of this created world of Srishti, which, according to certain lineages, is all Maya. Right? So there's an entire element of truth and existence and power that is much, much more than this. So yeah, we pay attention to it. Pay attention to the horoscope. Do the pujas you need to do. In the same way that, you know, we take care of our physical bodies and we buy, you know, fire insurance if you live in a fire-prone area, or earthquake insurance. But never forget that ultimately that spiritual connection, the spiritual practices, are connecting you to a power जिसके सामने ये सारे कुछ भी नहीं है. ठीक है? Good. Yes. Yes, please.
I'm Giuseppe from Italy. I'm here with a group of friends under the guidance of Chiara. Before all, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this beautiful hospitality in this beautiful ashram. The question is, when we come back in daily life and we are so busy with many things, worries, fears, and other things, especially the women that are so busy with children, with their family life and so on. Which is your advice to maintain this connection with the divine in their daily life?
Beautiful, beautiful. So there's two pieces. One piece is the recharging practice, and then the other piece is the remembering practice. Recharging, at least twice a day, morning and evening, even for 5-10 minutes at a time. Not everyone can make an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. Some people, you're right, there's lots and lots of responsibilities. It's okay. Even 10 minutes. Just reconnecting, recharging in that meditation. A little bit of pranayam and some meditation, morning and evening. But then, the remembering process. Throughout the day, whatever we do, tie it to the possibility of remembering. For me, as I always share, I'm a very good water drinker, and I'm also a big snacker. So, a little bit of nuts here, a piece of fruit here, a protein bar here. And for me, I just developed a practice years ago where before every single drop of water or sip of tea or bite of any food, just a moment of eyes closed, remembering. Doesn't have to be a whole big, several month-long prayer or anything like that. Just a moment. A moment of eyes closed, a moment of reconnection. Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah, here we are. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So whatever she does, if she's the mother of a newborn, say every time you change a diaper. Whatever you do a lot of during the day. Do you drive a lot? Every time you turn the ignition. Something that you're already doing a lot of. Just tie a practice of remembering to it. Just before you turn the ignition. Just before you unstick the dirty diaper. Just before whatever you're doing. Just a moment. A moment of reconnection. A moment of remembering. And what it does is it pulls you out. I'm the doer. I'm about to drive. I'm about to change a diaper. I'm about to cook food. I'm about to wash dishes. And in my case, I'm about to eat an apple or drink water or drink a cup of tea. And it just reminds us, oh yeah, I'm not actually the doer. Here I am playing this role, but I'm not actually the doer. I am the consciousness. I am the awareness. Doing is happening. I am the vehicle through which that doing is happening. And we just remember. You can put your hands here. If you're anchored in the heart chakra, I bring my hands here, my Swadhisthana chakra, that seat of the self, quite literally. And it's just an immediate anchoring, grounding. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And you reconnect. And that ultimately is how spirituality was meant to be. There's no scripture anywhere that says, oh, if you really want to be spiritual, you better not have kids. So many of the beautiful spiritual beings in our scriptures are householders, men, women, mothers, fathers. That spirituality is meant to flow through our life. Like the thread on a mala, right? We have all of the beads, but the thread is what flows through it. That's what the word sutra means. When we speak about yoga sutras, for example, or all of the other sutras that we have, these ways of living, well, sutra means thread. And it's the thread that is meant to weave through everything we do. And that's our spiritual connection. Yeah, beautiful. Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Myself, Dhruvil Dorajia. My question is, how do you see the karma? Do you believe in the cycle of karma, like if we do the good things, good will come to us? And if we do the bad, bad will happen to us? And if this is, then why the sometimes bad thing happens to good people?
So the law of karma is definite. Absolutely. What we do, it comes back to us. We've all seen this in our lives. Sometimes it's immediate. Walk into a bar, punch somebody, chances are they're going to punch you right back. Immediate karma. Sometimes it's longer. Study hard in school. Be diligent. Don't go out to parties every night. Give up some social opportunities. Don't watch too much TV. Focus on studies. 5-10 years from now, you'll have a good job. You'll have freedom to pick a job that matches the lifestyle you want to live. You'll be more successful. You'll have more freedom, financial freedom, career freedom. Sometimes it's much longer term, much later in life. Sometimes it's next life. But that action, that karma, it always bears fruit. Some things you plant, they sprout up today. Some things you plant, like somebody was telling me the other day that bamboo grows basically underground mostly, and it seems like nothing is happening, and all these people think and then in kind of a day, it suddenly sprouts up feet. Some things grow at a more even pace, some quickly, some slowly. But everything ultimately is going to bear fruit. Why do bad things happen to good people then? Well, first of all, I would question the definition of good people. And the reason for this is we never really can know the truth about another person. A lot of times people ask it the other way even. They'll say, why do these people who are basically kind of conniving, corrupt, not good people, why are they the ones who become so rich and so successful and seem to have all of the good things? And, those of us who are honest and hardworking and have integrity, like we don't have anything. And the dilemma is that we're only seeing things from the most superficial level. Keval upar upar se dekh rahe hain. We're not seeing the agony in the lives of those people who we think have everything perfect. I cannot tell you the number of times in so many different parts of the world I have seen situations where fabulously wealthy people, fabulously successful people who everybody else thinks, oh my God, kash hum bhi aise hota. the minute the doors of their house close and the other friends go away, the rest of the community goes away, and it's just Pujya Swamiji and myself sitting there, that's when the tears start. And that's when the truth comes out. Can you help us with this with our children, this with our marriage, this with my brother, it's almost all the time. So we don't know. We say, it's not fair, those people are so successful. Well, they don't see themselves as so successful. Yeah, there's money and a lot of misery. And then we may look at ourselves and say, oh, I don't have much. But hey, at the end of the day, at least every time the door closes, you're not sobbing at what a mess your life has become. At least at the end of the day, there's gratitude, maybe there's a family, maybe there's your creative expression, maybe there's your joy, your healing, your ability to offer to the world. That at the end of the day, you go to sleep happy. Okay, you may not have 5 Mercedes in your driveway, but there's a lot of people who do have 5 Mercedes in their driveway who would give them all away to be able to go to sleep without a pill. But no matter how much money they spend, it's not happening. So never judge success or failure in somebody else. Never judge good, bad in somebody else. You don't know. It's like the story of the poor villager who had a horse, and his horse ran away one day, and everybody said, oh, ho, 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 you poor thing, my God, you had one horse, now you have no horse, the horse is gone. He says, let's see. A little while later, his horse comes back with a mate. Now he has 2 horses. Everybody says, oh, you're so lucky, my God, look, you had 1 horse, now you have 2 horses. He says, yeah, let's see. And one day his son is trying to tame the new horse that's come, falls off the horse, breaks his leg. Everybody says, oh, you poor thing, you've got 1 son. Now the son's broken his leg, he can't walk, you've got nobody to help you in the field. The man says, let's see. Week later, all the government officials come through all of the towns, taking all of the young, healthy men into the army because they've just gone to war with the neighboring country. But his son is laid up in bed with a broken leg. They can't take him. So everybody says, oh, you're so lucky. So I love the story because it just reminds us of how superficial our vision is. The law of karma is perfect. That much I can promise you. If it doesn't make sense today, all it means is that your vision is not broad enough. You know, my favorite, always timely example is look at Bhagwan Ram. Right? I mean, look at what he went through. The embodiment of Dharma, the embodiment of integrity, Maryada Purush. Nobody would say, oh yeah, I'm better than he is. Right? We're trying, aiming to live like that. And what happens to him? Not only doesn't he get coronated, kicked out, exile, 14 years. Makes no sense. Until you step back and remember the story of Shravan Kumar and King Dashrath, who killed him. And the curse that Shravan Kumar's parents put on King Dashrath. That as we are dying of a broken heart due to the loss of our son, so will you. Well, he had no son. So now the whole Leela comes into play, right? But if all you look at is the day of his coronation and the 14 years after, you'd say, the worst thing to the best person. How is it possible? Because you can't step back far enough. So when karma doesn't seem to make sense, all it means is we're not seeing the full picture. Okay? But instead of focusing on why, which doesn't really serve us at all, focus on how. How can I use my karma, my actions, to create a better future for myself and for all? Why this, why that? We lose our whole lives in that. Kabhi samajh nahi payenge. And the point is we're not here to be karmic scientists. You don't have to understand the equations of gravity to know don't step off a roof. All you need to know is don't step off a roof. It won't go well, I promise. What's the equation at which velocity you're going to plummet to the earth? I don't know, but who cares? All that matters is don't step off the roof. Stay on the roof. Or don't go up to the roof at all. Be careful. Because there's this thing called gravity. Why? I don't know. Because that's how the universe was made. What's the equation? I don't know. I knew it 40 years ago in physics class. No recollection at the moment. But I know not to jump off a roof. In the same way, don't worry about the why. You don't need to know the equations. All you need to know is how do I use my actions for a better next moment after that, next year, next decade, next life, for me and for all. Yeah, great. Wonderful. We have time for one more question, if there is. Yes, sorry. Bright light is in my face. There you go.
So today we are talking about karma, destiny. So may I add one more question?
Sure.
That has been, I wouldn't say bothering me, but thinking about since a long time now. So one of the theory goes that everything is predestined. Everything is kind of written in your life. If that is so, why do we blame people for doing something wrong? At some level, probably they have some control. But if it is predestined, and if somebody does something wrong, why he or she is blamed?
Okay. Great question. And it's a really interesting question on a lot of levels. There's a very famous neurobiologist at Stanford named Robert Sapolsky, who 2 years ago came out with a book. His earlier book was called Behave, and his new book is called Determined. And it's from a neurological viewpoint. And his premise is that we have no free will. That every single thing is predestined. And his premise is, if you gave me access to the entire neuroprocesses and the history of the neuroprocesses, I could tell you how every single decision, choice, action, how it all happened, because it's all traceable back, and we have no free will. So I was really interested in this for obvious reasons. And what I realized in reading his book is, although on a neurological level, obviously I agree fully. I mean, there's no fault in his scientific reasoning. When we speak about that which is destined and the free will and karma, we're talking about something different, meaning the fact that you had a particular experience in your childhood, that you had particular parents, that you were raised in a particular environment, that you were given a particular set of values, ethics, priorities, choices that led to absolutely fine. But along the way, you absolutely were using free will, because the free will is not undermined by the fact of what we speak about as sanskaras, that are the impressions upon our psyche by all of that which has happened. Now, when we say everything is predestined, an interesting and important question for that is, when was it predestined? Because in his premise as well, I can tell you now if I look at 10 minutes ago or 10 seconds ago, what neurons fired in what part of my brain 10 seconds ago could tell him, what am I going to do now? Am I going to scratch my nose? Am I going to say something? Am I going to cough? Am I going to drink water? But that which fired in my brain 10 seconds ago was because of the free will, the choice that I made. Let me back this up and uncomplicate it for a moment. We have total and complete free will over our choice in this very moment. We cannot change where we are. We cannot change who we are. We cannot change the flood of chemistry in our brain, all of which is due to the past. Our own actions of the past. Some actions from past lives due to which I was born in this family, under this constellation, in this situation. And some due to actions of literally a minute ago. Literally a minute ago. It keeps determining the next minute, the next minute, the next minute. I cannot rewind life. I cannot be somewhere different. I cannot be someone different. I cannot have made different choices a minute or 2 minutes ago. But I can make a different choice right here and right now. And so when we say someone is not to blame, the question becomes, what choices are we making? We absolutely have the ability to make different choices regardless of the sanskaras. In this moment, I can't rewind and make different choices in the past. I cannot change the flood of the chemicals that are happening based on choices from the past, but I can change what I do with them right now, in this moment. Somebody hits me. Let's take an example. I was talking about hitting somebody in a bar. Let's say I come from a family of people who are alcoholics, drug addicts, violent. Thankfully I don't, but let's say that I did. And I'm someone who, due to that, I have very poor impulse control, and I was in trouble in school for fighting, and etc. You get the picture. Now I'm in the bar, somebody hits me. Every chemical in my brain, every neuro impulse is to hit him back. But I do have a choice. I absolutely have the possibility to do what we call grab the space between the thought and the action. And this is where spirituality comes in, to allow us to grab that space. But in order to grab it, I have to be able to be mindful. If I am acting just as a stimulus response, then he's right, we have no free will. As is the chemical, so will be the reaction. As is my pulse rate, so will determine whether I hit you back or I calm down. The higher the pulse rate, the more likely I'm going to hit you. Lower the pulse rate, more likely I won't. But I have control over my pulse rate if I'm mindful of it. I can notice my pulse rate is going up, that makes it more likely I'm going to hit you back. And I can now go into deep breathing. And I can lower the pulse rate. And I can make a different choice. And because we do have the ability, despite our chemistry, despite our electricity, despite our history, to make a brand new choice every minute of every day. We look at the lives of so many of our beautiful rishis and sages, Valmiki, Kalidas, so many beautiful stories in our tradition, in other traditions. I look at my own life, the lives of so many I know, that were destined to be very different. But by grace, by choices that I have no idea how I made such a good one because it was absolutely not like me at the time. But in a moment, with surrender, with sincerity, with openness, with trust, I made a decision that set a domino effect onto the rest of my life. The decision was to stay here. The decision was to come to Rishikesh, to offer pain to Ganga. This was not according to everything that you would have known about me prior to coming here. It was not a life that you would have said was predestined. But through grace, and through that ability that I had, that I'll be forever grateful for, to open to an experience that was so different, so seemingly crazy, it transformed my life. And I've seen it in so many people. So we do have the ability to change. It is why all of our spiritual traditions emphasize practices like meditation, mindfulness, seva, japa, all of these things that actually change how our mind works. They literally change our brain. And when our brain is changed, our personality is changed, our actions are changed. When our actions are changed, our destiny is changed. So when we say it's predestined, I always talk about this. It doesn't mean predestined like up in the sky somewhere thousands of years ago, written by, a cosmic hand. Predestined by the actions that I did prior to this moment. My own actions are the that predestine something for my future, which is why I can't change where I am right now. It was predestined. But where I'm going to be a year from now is being predestined right now. Right here, right now, in my choices. You've gone to a bar and drunk yourself silly every night and woken up in a gutter. You can make a different choice today. No matter what our habits, our patterns, our sanskars, we have the power. That doesn't mean it's easy. But we are not just a mass of the chemical and electrical patterns of behavior in our brain. Sadly, most of us act like that. But we are not. And it's why our sages and our rishis and our mystics and our gurus, again, across traditions, implore us, meditate, go within. You're not one of Pavlov's dogs. You're not a stimulus response experiment. You're the consciousness. There is space. There is choice. There is freedom. Grab that. So, lastly, back to the idea of blaming people. I mean, I'm never in favor of blaming people anyway. But I do think that people should be held accountable for their actions. We're all, to some extent, diseased. Every moment that we're not in ease, we're diseased. Sure, some people are absolutely in a situation where you would say, well, they have no control. There are certain illnesses, ailments that render us unable to control our physical movements, control the words that we say. But it's rare. Most of us do have control. And just because we've had a certain set of circumstances in our life, it doesn't excuse. It may explain, but an explanation is not an excuse. And we're not here on earth to just have good excuses. We're here on earth to live as our highest, truest self. Yeah, good. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful day and morning to our family joining us online from all over the world. And so much love to you all. I look so forward to seeing